Everyone reaches a moment in life when they quietly ask themselves why their life feels heavier than it should, why no matter how hard they try they still feel behind, unseen, or incomplete, and most of the time the answer is not failure but comparison. A habit so common that it feels normal, yet so destructive that it slowly drains peace without making a sound. And this story begins with someone like that, a person who worked honestly, dreamed sincerely, and yet felt deeply unhappy because everywhere they looked they saw others doing better, living brighter lives, receiving more love and respect, until one day that feeling became unbearable and turned into quiet despair, believing that life was unfair and that being someone else would surely be easier. And in that emotional state the person felt small, unwanted, and tired of being themselves, carrying an invisible weight that no one else could see, a weight that slowly stole their sleep, their confidence, their motivation, and their sense of purpose, making even simple days feel exhausting and joy feel distant. And it was during this fragile moment that the story gently introduces wisdom, not loud or dramatic, but calm and patient, like an old guide who listens more than speaks, allowing the pain to exist without judgment. And instead of offering immediate solutions, this presence invites reflection, suggesting that unhappiness does not always come from lacking something but from constantly looking at what others seem to have, measuring self-worth through borrowed standards and borrowed timelines. And to understand this truth, the person is guided on a symbolic journey, observing different lives that appear happier from the outside, first noticing those admired for beauty, success, confidence, or freedom, believing they must be satisfied and complete. Yet each time the illusion breaks, revealing hidden struggles, fears, limitations, loneliness, pressure, and quiet suffering that were never visible at first glance, showing that every life carries its own burden and that happiness cannot be measured by appearance, wealth, popularity, social approval, or applause. And with each comparison the person begins to realize how unfair it is to compare one life to another when the starting points, challenges, timing, responsibilities, and emotional battles are never the same. Because some lives are tested early, some later, some loudly in public, and some silently behind closed doors. And this realization slowly settles that comparison is endless, that there will always be someone ahead and someone behind, richer, faster, smarter, younger, or more celebrated, and chasing peace through comparison is like running toward a horizon that never gets closer no matter how far you go, leaving only exhaustion, envy, and self-doubt behind. And in that understanding something inside begins to soften, the pressure to compete fades, the need to prove worth loosens, replaced by a quiet awareness that freedom does not come from becoming better than others but from becoming honest with oneself. And this moment becomes the turning point where the person stops asking why their life is different and starts asking how they can grow within it, recognizing that their journey is not wrong, only unfinished, and that growth does not require permission from others or approval from comparison. It only requires patience, consistency, humility, and self-respect. And as this awareness deepens, the emotional weight lifts, not because problems disappear but because self-hatred does, allowing space for gratitude, clarity, forgiveness, and steady confidence to return. And the story gently shifts from the individual to the listener, reminding them that comparison steals joy before success ever arrives, that it turns gratitude into bitterness and progress into shame, and that no amount of external achievement can heal an internal wound created by constant self-judgment. Because peace begins when a person measures their life against who they were yesterday, not against someone living a completely different chapter, timeline, or story. And the lesson becomes clear and universal, that happiness is not found by collecting what others have but by accepting what one already is while working patiently toward what one can become. And in the closing reflection the story returns to calm, emphasizing that life was never meant to be a race, that everyone moves at the speed of their own healing and learning, that success looks different for everyone, that quiet progress still counts, and that small steps forward matter more than loud comparisons, and that the moment a person stops comparing themselves to others is the moment their life begins to feel lighter, clearer, and more real. Because true fulfillment does not come from winning against someone else. It comes from making peace with your own path and walking it with courage, kindness, patience, gratitude, self-acceptance, and quiet faith, trusting that your journey, exactly as it is, has value, dignity, and meaning worth honoring.